Hey guys, it's Kayla here from Journey Dog Training with my dog Barley. And today we are going to talk about the treat and retreat method for working with aggressive, reactive, and fearful dogs. So I actually am not sure who invented the treat and retreat training method, but I think it came to my attention first thanks to Michael Shikashio of Complete Canines. I've taken his aggression in dogs course, or his A to Z course, which I think is running soon for anyone who's interested, online. I've also seen him speak live multiple times. So just a little shout out to Michael Shikashio because he's the guy who taught me this. So again, treat and retreat is basically a training method that involves a lot of careful treat tossing to help get aggressive, reactive, and fearful dogs through some training. So what I like about treat and retreat is that a lot of people instinctively, when they have a fearful or reactive aggressive dog, what they want to try to do is they want to feed it. That's great, but what we can see is we can actually see dogs that are really scared of people and really distance sensitive getting too close to someone because they really want the food. And as soon as they're done swallowing, they look up and they're like, oh, shit. And then we get a lot of barking, growling. We can even get bitten in that situation. So I actually don't like using food to lure a dog closer to me if there's a chance that dog is going to have an adverse reaction. So just because I see we've got a couple people actually watching now, to reiterate, my name is Kayla. I'm with Journey Dog Training, and we're going to talk about the treat and retreat training method. So if you guys can let me know that you are paying attention by giving a little shout out, send me a sunshine or something on the comment thing, and then be sure that you're sharing this so that more people can see it. We're going to talk a little bit about treat and retreat training methods today. So there are kind of two halves to the treat and retreat training method. I am going to show you both halves. One is where you are handling the dog that needs work, and then one is where you are trying to get closer to that dog. So if you are working on the treat and retreat training method and it's your dog, like Barley here, you've got a lot of handling to do and you're going to be moving. Versus if you are trying to work with a dog that is really scared of you or potentially might aggress towards you, then the dog is going to be moving and usually you're going to be staying still, although that might change. If you're a shelter worker and you're in a kennel situation, you might be the one who has to move because the dog can't get further away from you. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about safety here. If you are working with a dog that has potential to bite, and yes, all dogs can bite and all dogs will bite if pushed hard enough. But if there's reasonable concern that this dog might bite you, I want you to make sure that you have two, at least, barriers of protection between you and that dog if you are working with a dog that might bite you. So I'm kind of demoing that one method here with Barley. I have a nice firm leash. Oh my gosh, very aggressive. A nice leather leash attached to a harness that he has never slipped out of. I'm not worried about him slipping out of it. And then he is attached to a chair. If I actually were working with any dog that was much bigger than a Chihuahua, I would want something much firmer than a chair for this dog to be tied to. But for demonstration's sake, if I were actually going to be working with Barley and I actually thought he might aggress towards me, I would probably have him tied to, say, a tree. And then I also would have him muzzled. So this is Barley's muzzle. This is a Baskerville Ultra muzzle. You can see Barley loves it. And that is because Barley has learned that when he puts his nose in the muzzle, he gets treats. I actually trained him using squeeze cheese, and that was the only time he ever got squeeze cheese, so he's pretty stoked about his muzzle. So again, this is the Baskerville Ultra muzzle. I've got a blog post coming out later this week on muzzles. So if you are thinking about getting a muzzle for your dog, I'm going to put this away so Barley stops sticking his face in it. Go ahead and subscribe to my blog at journeydogtraining.com, and you'll get notified about that article when it comes out. Good boy. So, two barriers of separation. We would have a muzzle and a tie down, a muzzle and a baby gate, a leash and a baby gate, a crate and a muzzle, two combinations of something, whatever it is, it's going to make sense. Whatever it is that makes sense. And if you've got a really scary dog, guys, if you've got like a 200-pound English Mastiff that really actually might want to hurt you, you might want to do 3. So anyway, safety first, right? So we've got our muzzle, we've got our tie down. I'm actually not going to make Barley wear a muzzle for the purpose of this training session because I'm not using treats that are good for going between muzzle marks. But just so you guys know, there would be a muzzle on. So I'm going to demonstrate first what would happen if I'm trying to get close to a dog that doesn't have a handler. So this might happen if you've got a loose dog situation. This might happen if you're in a shelter situation and you need to work with a dog that, you know, there's no handler. It also could happen as a trainer if you are working with people who are not savvy yet with their handling skills. You know, if this is your first time coming in as a brand new trainer and you're working with you know, it's difficult to coach people through it. You also can do this if you live with someone who has a dog that doesn't really like you and you're trying to work through it potentially when they're not around. So again, we've got our safety covered. There's all sorts of different reasons you might be having to do this without someone helping you handle the dog. So what treat and retreat looks like, I am going to scooch Barley back here a little bit. All right, so Barley cannot reach me. I'm going to kneel down again. So if I'm working with a dog that I don't think likes me, one of the biggest things that I can do to help is pay attention to my body language. So what I'm doing right now here is pretty much what you would want to do if you're working with a dog that might be easily spooked by you somehow. I'm on the balls of my feet so I can stand up quickly if I need to. If that dog's going to come up after me, I can get up and out of the way, and I can move relatively quickly. But I'm low, and I've got my side to the dog. This is about as non-threatening as I can be while still being safe while working with this dog. So when I used to work at Dumb Friends League, the shelter, and I was on the behavior team, my calves were constantly so sore from basically kneeling on the balls of my feet all day. So step one is step one is safety. Dog's tied out, dog has a muzzle. Step 2 is your own body language. You're being relatively non-threatening, no fast movements. So for the actual treat and retreat, it's super easy, guys. All you're going to do is you've got some treats. I have kibble here. I would recommend using something a little bit tastier potentially, but I don't actually want the treats to be so good that the dog might come after the treats even if he's still really scared of you. So you want it to be good enough the dog's going to eat. But you don't want it so good that a dog that's actually really scared of you might come after the treats and then all of a sudden remember that he's terrified of you, and then you're in a bad situation. So we've got our treats, and we're just tossing a little bit behind the dog. I like doing this little wrist flick because this sort of movement towards a lot of scary dogs where you're coming up and over their heads. Oops, see that one. It's pretty scary, so that wrist flick is helpful. So again. And so the treat and retreat comes in because we're tossing the treats actually away from us. So I'm going to see if I can get my dog to stand up and move away from me for one of these treats. It's very lazy today. It's quite hot here in Seattle. Might not have been a good idea to do this in the grass, but it's nice out here in the shade. So he's doing this. The nice thing about the grass is he's getting the soothing benefits of sniffing through grass to get those treats. So again, got a treat, toss it back there, stands up to go get it. So the nice thing is he's standing up, he's going to get it. He is learning to give himself distance away from me as a break. So if he were truly really spooked by me, he's getting the soothing benefits of sniffing for the treats. He's also learning that if he's scared of me, he can walk away from me and get rewarded. I'm not trying to lure him into me or do anything where I'm going to get him too close to me. And what I can start doing is I can start differentially rewarding him for things that I like. So if I were working with a dog that was truly really scared of me, what I'm probably looking for is a dog, you know, him glancing up at me or taking a step towards me. And at that point, I can click and treat. Didn't get my clicker out in time, so we can just say the word good and then toss that treat. Good. There we go. So this is what I like seeing a little bit more of. So yeah, the whole sitting on the balls of your feet thing, it does hurt after a while. But you do, again, you want to be sure that if you need to, you can stand up and get out of the way. I have had cases where I was working, especially in a kennel situation in a shelter with a dog, got a little bit too, the dog got a little bit too close to me, and then freaked out, and I had to stand up relatively quickly, and man, am I glad that I wasn't sitting, crisscross applesauce, because I could have actually gotten nailed pretty badly. So your calves will get stronger, your Achilles will get stretched. It's good for you. All right, so that's really pretty much it for treat and retreat. So obviously Barley is my own dog. He's delightful. If you were working with a dog that actually had more concerns, one of the big things to keep track of here is you want to keep your sessions short. So I don't want you doing this for 20 minutes. I don't want you doing this for even 5 minutes. Really is probably going to be too long for a lot of dogs that are truly nervous about you. Take breaks. And when you do decide to get up and move, what I really like to make sure I'm doing, if the dog is nervous of me, is I wait. He's looking at me. I'm not staring at him. I'm not making eye contact. But I'm going to, start moving before I start moving, if that makes sense. So he's paying attention. I'm going to do a little bit of movement, see how that goes. Okay, he's still pretty relaxed. Now I can stand up. And I can leave. So that's really key. If your dog is still sniffing around and you just really quickly, that's a really good way to spook your dog. The thing is with scared dogs, also with aggressive dogs, if you scare them, if you startle them, that's a really good chance for you to get bitten, and we don't want that. So that's kind of the basics of treat and retreat. Again, all it is those, it's the body language, it's the keeping the dog safe and away from you, and those little treat tosses behind the dog. So I saw we just got one more new visitor, so here's that toss. Whoops. And my dog's really fast, so I think he almost got that one. And don't fall over behind the dog. And then when he comes back, when he pays attention to you again, when he engages again, you reward by tossing the treat. And again, you keep making that space. And if you're sitting here wondering, okay, Kayla, that's great, but I'm constantly tossing the treats away from me. How do I actually get this dog nearer to me? I promise, if you keep rewarding at the right time, when that dog is paying attention to you, when that dog has shifted his weight towards you, when the dog has even taken a step towards you, he is going to start coming closer and closer to you. Great. So that is if you are on the opposite end from the dog. You are not handling the dog. You can't get close to the dog. That's what we're working on. So let's talk a little bit about I'm handling a dog. I have a reactive dog. I have an aggressive dog. And I want to help someone else work through this. First thing, obviously, is we're going to do a lot of the same steps. We're going to coach the other person, through what I just demoed for you guys. So we've still got the safety. We're still instructing the other person to be down low to the ground on the balls of their feet, their side or back to the dog. Hopefully, they're not going to have to get up and move away from the dog because you are holding on to your dog. But we're still going to keep all those good practices. And then they're still doing that nice backhand toss to the dog, tossing behind the dog so that the dog moves away. Your job as the handler here is to help the dog move away and move around. This also is really helpful if you've got a dog who is really not very into food and not great about eating in training situations. I like to see dogs eating in training situations. If your dog doesn't eat when he's stressed and he's not eating in training sessions, that might be a sign that your training session is too hard. But some dogs really are truly just kind of finicky about food. You usually can find something that works for them. I just had a client where I swear to God we went through bacon, salmon, bonito flakes, Cheerios, banana. It was a long list. What finally worked was cat kibble. We found something that the dog could use. So anyway, like to use treats, but if you, for whatever reason, really can't use treats, we can go ahead and do some other handling things to help the dog work on those treat and retreats all on his own. So I'm going to stand up, go get my dog, and tilt you guys a little bit so you can actually see us a little bit better. And we'll demo handling a dog that needs this sort of work. right. So now, if you guys will remember from last week with our discussion about handling dogs in sketchy situations, what we're looking at is I want that leash over your thumb or index finger. Close your hand around it, second hand on it, nice and close to your center of gravity. Don't be kneeling down like I am, because if Barley hits the end of this leash, I'm falling over right now. Luckily, he's about the laziest this border collie has ever been in his entire life today. So, all right, stand up. What we've got is leash properly held, and we're here. So let's say that you guys are my other trainers, and you guys you've got your side to me, you are tossing treats like this. What my job is to help the dog back away and find those treats. You guys just toss a treat there. And then I can help redirect the dog towards the person. What I do not want anyone to do, if they're handling a dog that's working on treat and retreat, I don't want you pulling that dog towards whatever it is they're scared of, all right? We don't want that. So really your job as the handler is to mostly keep the dog slack but tight. So, sorry, what am I saying? Leash is tightly held in your hand, but it is slack on the dog. For a lot of dogs, tension on the leash can make them a lot more stressed and a lot more prone to big emotional reactions, so we don't want that. So again, all you're doing, if you're handling a dog while someone else works on treat and retreat, is you're just helping the dog move back and forth. And if you can't do treats, what you can do is you can actually reward the dog with distance. So what we'll see here is if you guys, again, are the scary boogeyman for Barley, I've got his leash held properly, and I'm going to wait, and if he looks over at you guys, and he might not because there's really no reason for him to look at a laptop. Good. And then we can move away. Good boy. Reward with extra treats. And this is really great, if you've got a dog where space is a good reward for them, what you're doing is you're treating the dog with space. So you don't actually have to use treats if you've got a dog that really wants space away from things. So you can reward their bravery for them noticing that scary thing by backing up and getting out of there. It's a little hard to demonstrate, and it's a little hard to conceive of, given that you guys are a laptop and Barley is really not interested in you guys at all. But does that make sense to you guys? Does anyone have any questions about handling a dog for treat and retreat? I know it's a little weird. There's not a whole lot going on. It's a really pretty easy handling situation. Although, again, if I actually was dealing with like a 200-pound English Mastiff, I might be a little bit more stressed now than I currently am. All right, no questions. So I think that's just about it for that treat and retreat stuff, guys. It takes a lot of practice, and it gets to be second nature for you guys to kneel down, avert your gaze, keep your side to the dog, toss the treats nice and behind the dog, and then get out of there. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week. Next week, I actually am going to be backpacking. So you will have a recorded video on working with your dog to walk nicely in distracting situations. It's just pre-recorded ahead of time because I'm backpacking and I will not have cell service, let alone internet connection, to bring you guys a Training Tuesday. And then we'll be back the week after that with something great. I don't remember what's on the calendar. So go ahead and give us a like, share. All that stuff really helps other people find us. So anything that you guys can do to help more people find this content is really, really helpful. I'm really working on building our social media up right now so that we can get more stuff out to more people. And ultimately, we're going to be launching some other paid services here soon-ish. So that's a bit of a teaser, but the biggest thing that we can do right now is get this free, awesome content out to people, and then they'll hear about it when we do actually have those bigger paid options available. So that's about all, guys, unless you've got any questions. Cool. I won't see you next week, but you guys will see me next week. Bye.